So, of course, we've talked about the foot soldiers of the FBA movement, the ones who are following behind Tariq Nasheed. But when it comes to this, why don't we just go straight to Tariq Nasheed? But of course, it would not be right to start a Tariq Nasheed video without playing my favorite Tariq Nasheed clip.
This dude will not leave me the. This dude has been following me around. He will not let me do what I do. That's the thing. When you come out here, man, you gotta chill. What's up, man? What's your name, man?
My name?
Yeah, what's your name?
Obama.
Oh, your name ain't no goddamn Obama. This dude will not leave me alone, man. This dude is hustling, trying to sell everything. That's the thing. If you come out here, you try to enjoy yourself. These dudes are hawking you, hounding you, trying to sell something, trying to get you on a tour.
I don't know why, but that's the funniest clip I've ever seen. So let's get into the video.
An interesting narrative from Tethers. There's a lot of interesting. The Tethers are all online. Yeah, look at Ishowspeed. He's getting love in Africa. I know those FBA. Heck this. I'm seeing a lot of discourse by Tethers hollering about FBAs are mad because Speed is getting love over in Africa.
So maybe not all of them are mad, but definitely the one I reacted to the other day, he was definitely mad. But he can't help it. He's just mad all the time. You dig?
These FBA guys are upset because Speed is over there crushing your propaganda.
Firstly, what is that accent? Guy sounds like, who's that guy who played the Lost King of Scotland? He sounds like that guy trying to do an African accent. The same way that I think white supremacy does that thing where whenever black Americans try to claim Egypt, they do that we were, and then they put kings at the end, but in a mocking way for black people. I think African Americans should not do like the accent thing, especially since most of it is just stolen from like white supremacists. And if you're going to do the accent, at least like figure out what part of Africa you're going to mimic. Also, don't act like it's only black Africans that were saying that this is hitting at the hearts of the FBA.
The Africans love FBAs. Okay. Yeah, we're not. Yeah, no, listen, nobody's mad.
Why would that make anybody mad? That black Africans like black Americans? Why would anybody be mad at that? I hope you're not mad. It would be pretty disappointing if you were mad at that. What do you want? Do you actually want us to hate you guys?
Nobody's mad. Let's clear something up. Yeah, they treat all celebrities like that. Yeah, when I go over there, they roll out the red carpet for me.
Okay, so everybody's very familiar with American celebrity and how they can make people chase them down the street and everything. But that's not necessarily what they're talking about. See, here, what these people are really talking about when they talk about propaganda is the way that Africans are living. If you compare what propaganda has been saying versus, especially places like South Africa, then you will get a different feeling. Of course, as a person, if you're a celebrity, you're going to get a very different reaction. And Americans are most familiar with this. Like, if you're a celebrity in America, you could go to a restaurant and get moved for somebody else. This is just real life, unfortunately, for some people. And a lot of that happened for Speed. A lot of people who were considered celebrities got bumped in the process, treated like they were nobody, but that's just whatever. And yeah, like, he got the treatment of a celebrity. What did people want? The thing that people are talking about for the most part is the fact that he didn't get disrespected like he did in other white countries. And if we have time, we might look at another video that talks about this.
I've always said that. Listen, we don't have a problem with people in Africa. We don't. We've never. I can speak for me. I can't speak for 43 million people.
you definitely can't speak for 40 million people. I thought it was 50 million Black Americans, but okay, you definitely can't speak for all of them. What I will say though is there are some of the people who are in the FBA movement who definitely um, hate Black Africans in Africa for some reason. I don't know why.
But I've never had a problem with Africa, people in Africa. I go there and I get a lot of love over there. In fact, when I go over there, they show me the utmost respect. That's not what we have a problem with.
So this seems like it's going in the direction that I was talking about in the previous FBA video, where it's the problem is not what they have with us, it's other people who go to their country and they run into and they have a problem with. This is a very different type of person.
Problem we have is with the tether class that leaves Africa, goes to countries here or in Europe, and then have the nerve to talk crap about us.
But is the problem that they're African, or is the problem that they're talking crap, as you said? Because obviously, if the problem is that they're talking that, wouldn't you have a problem with it if an American person born in America was talking like that?
That's the issue we have. We have an issue with tethers. It ain't Africans. We ain't got no problem with them. But the tether class who comes to Western countries or who comes over here and then start talking greasy, yeah, we're going to humbly remind you where you came from. Because look, we understand there's poverty and we understand the reasons for it.
Well, let's first get a couple things in line. A lot of those guys don't actually care about their original countries. That's one of the things that's a problem, is that a lot of the FBA people, they need to clear that up and make sure they're saying, like, we're speaking specifically about that guy and that guy, because when you do an African accent, it just sounds like you're insulting all Africans. And then there are some FBA people who just insult Africans and they go after poor Africans and people who have nothing to do with people online trolling them from wherever the hell they are. People who don't even have phones, and they're like putting them on screen and being like, look at these disgusting people.
We understand that there's economic collapse in many of these places. We understand. We're sympathetic, but when
So of course I've seen some of Tariq Nasheed's things, and I do believe that he understands it because he's explained it before, and I've heard him explain it. Like I'm not one of these people who watches two videos by somebody and then makes up my mind. I've seen him talk about other countries. I remember watching his debate with Jared Taylor and stuff, and he did talk about Africa there and all of this. So I don't disbelieve him when he says this part. But we must be careful not to say economic collapse. A lot of these are controlled collapses. Even though my video only got 20 views, we know what happened in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We know that they fought tooth and nail in Zimbabwe to make sure they get one of the worst dictators, and then they would never remove him like they removed some of the other dictators, but then they go and remove normal people from all over the place. Yeah, it's a madness out there.
y'all get arrogant and the tether class come over and start talking greasy about us, and we have to gently remind you, hey, brother, I'm sympathetic, but you do know where you came from. Just like the other day, y'all saw the broadcast with the Nigerian woman. Y'all remember that the other day?
I don't, but I didn't see it. But I will say it is very annoying to have people come from other parts of the world, go to America, and then start talking bad stuff about the Black Americans. If you want to criticize America, criticize America. Why criticize the Black people there? It doesn't make sense.
We had the Nigerian woman I was very nice to. I was cordial. She wanted to do a battle. And then, when we do a battle, what do we talk? We just kind of get to know each other. So I'm asking her, hey, ma'am, where's your guy? Who you stay with? I stay at my family. I said, do you have any kids? No, I'm only 21. We don't do that. We don't have kids at 21. I'm like, When she said that, hold on now, ma'am. Family, do y'all know in Nigeria the average age for them people to have kids is like 17, 18? They have kids real young over there.
So, of course, teenage pregnancy is a problem whenever you have poverty, especially since a lot of young girls and their families see it as a come up for a lot of young girls where they can just marry or date some guy and they'll try to get rich that way. But of course, a lot of these rich guys just want to whatever and then leave. And then, of course, there's just, you know, unhealthy ways of living and stuff like that. But there's also the rural way of living. And so when you hear 16, 17, might sound crazy. I mean, in South Africa, I know people who got kids at that age and they're perfectly fine because that's just how traditionally around the world, when you're 16, you're a grown up. But the average age in Nigeria is about 22 for having a kid. It's true that there's a large amount of people who have it at 18 or before 18, but the average is 22 and it's gone up since 2018. So she is right. By the way, what she's saying is also correct, which is a lot of Africans, especially in very family oriented countries like Nigeria, it's not really the age, but it's like you don't leave your family until you get married or something. Like you don't just leave your family, especially if they've got a lot of money. If you got to hustle, you got to do what you got to do.
So she said that, and I'm like, oh, yeah, y'all look that up. Well, they have kids. The average age of childbirth over there is between 17 and 21.
By the way, you guys are probably like, why are you using AI overview? Childbirth is a very easy thing to track because most people in Nigeria have to go to hospitals and stuff to have children and all this other stuff. So even if they don't have birth certificates, people know who gave birth when and stuff like that. So the average childbirth is about 22, and again, it's gone up in 2018. This one says around 20, but I know that in 2018 the average was about 19 years old. In 2017 it was about 17 years old. Throughout the years it's been going up and up and up, and this has to do with choice. This is something that I know people hate the word feminist, but this is the type of stuff that feminists have been working on in Africa for decades now. Like feminists in the West, people think it's kind of not useful, but feminists in some of these countries really need to get in there because a lot of the women there need more family planning and all of that as a starting point, so that you don't get those ages of 15 and that for children.
Then she got real defensive when I'm like, ma'am, I don't know, ma'am. And plus, there's a lot of paternity frauds with those births.
So it's very difficult to track paternity fraud. We've done this before, but paternity fraud tends to happen in places where people have a lot of kids, and a lot of European countries, they don't really have a lot of kids. And so paternity fraud doesn't really happen that much. Obviously, in African American communities, because people have a lot of kids in those areas, it's up a little. And if you go to the, other places around the world where there's a lot of children, that does happen. But it's nowhere near the majority. Like the number of people who don't know who it's almost nothing. There's a whole TV shows made about that in America because it was not common, because that's a lie. It's never been common anywhere in the world. For those of you that don't know, paternity fraud is when a woman pretends that the kid is yours when she knows it's not yours. That's different, by the way, from her thinking that it's yours because for good reason.
Yeah, like when she said that, everybody was like, what? The whole room was like, what are you talking about? All them damn orphans running around? Yeah, these are young women having these kids over there.
So, of course, Nigeria does have an orphan problem. Obviously, there's a lot of that. But that's also because a lot of people die very young. Low a very low death rate in Nigeria. Now, you will notice that Speed went to several countries. Nigeria, I think, was not one of them. So I don't know why Nigeria is being brought up. In fact, I know why Nigeria is being brought up because Nigeria is the attack for everybody. You've heard me say this before. South Africans don't like Nigerians. Indians don't like Nigerians. Americans don't like Nigerians. Whenever they want to go and attack Africans, the one that they're going to attack is Nigeria. Like Nigeria is going to represent Africa for some reason.
Yeah, they have kids real young. So yeah, and I kind of talked about the paternity fraud, and then she got real defensive. You Americans, that's because Americans are stupid. I'm like, what?
Yep. So again, just two people fighting over, you know, never mind, never mind. I was gonna say something before. It's like when people criticize gangs, saying that they're fighting over territories they don't really own.
What? Whoa, whoa. You're dumb and stupid. Oh, ma'am. Then I had to gently remind her, ma'am, you're sleeping on a pallet. This is a bed, ma'am. That's a pallet. It's on the floor. You can't sit here talking about how
Well, sounds like that was one hell of a live stream. I'm glad I missed it.
stupid we are, and you sitting over there laying on a pallet with bush meat sauce all over the place, ma'am. You see?
Bushmeat sauce. What's bushmeat sauce?
So when people start talking greasy, we're going to have to gently remind them, hey, we see your situation. You're not in any position to be out here talking greasy. That's not hate. That's making people accountable and making them calm down. Do you see yourself? Because, yeah, that whole
So I'm actually confused about this entire conversation. If, well, I kind of get it. If the person's coming for your people and you fight back and talk about their people, then that's one thing. But, it would be different if they're having a debate with an American and then all of a sudden they start, like, especially if it was about something that not related to, you know, people, and then all of a sudden they start like insulting lands and stuff like that. But I guess if she insulted the people first, that's fine, I guess.
Prince of Zamunda game that a lot of people have been trying to work. They've been doing that whole Prince of Zamunda thing. That's why Eddie Murphy made that movie Coming to America.
So I don't know if people understand how poverty works, especially in like third world countries. But usually, and I'll say this again, it's not a problem of there's absolutely no money. It's that it's a problem of corruption. So there, you definitely will find people who have ridiculous amounts of money in the country, and then you'll realize that they're just like how in America they talk about how there's the 1% that holds all the money, and then the rest of it is like smaller. And so when they're talking about like America's got like 30 trillion, like most of it is belongs to like 1,000 people.
That was a thing, especially in the 80s, for them to come from impoverished areas talking about how they're a prince back home. Not even, they've been doing that really since the early 1900s.
To be fair, who are the people who can fly to the other countries, like who can go to America, who can afford to go to America? If they're not refugees, then they probably do have a lot of money back home. Now, maybe a prince is crazy, but although to be fair, there's a lot of princes in Africa because there's a lot of kingdoms in Africa.
The whole I'm a prince and I'm a chief, they've been doing that since the early 1900s. I won't even say the 80s. That really got started over here with a dude named Chief Alfred Sam. He came over here before Marcus Garvey. And I talked about Alfred Sam before. Y'all look him up. He came over here and finessed a whole bunch of foundational Black Americans.
So I guess this video is not really about speed.
in the early 1900s. He came from the area now known as Ghana, and he was like, "Yes, I'm from Africa. I'm a prince. Um, we're going to have a village where Black Americans can come over, and you're going to live wealthy. It's a lot of farmland, no racism. When it rains, there are diamonds in the streets." He was just really selling basically an early version of Wakanda. And there were a handful of FBAs who kind of went for it. They were like, "Oh, damn, it's popping like that." Now, we didn't know that, you had lying tethers like
I'll be honest, I don't even blame the lying tethers thing on there. Like, if you believe that and you didn't do any research, you thought you're going to go to a land where there's that. By the way, that happens with several different types of people. Is it Jim Jones who made people move somewhere and then he like got rid of them all? Like, that's something that's happened many times in America where there's scammers who are doing stuff like that. And it happens in Africa too. I'm not pretending like it's some kind of American phenomenon, but it's happened all over the world. There are scammers. That's got nothing to do with being a tether. It's just a guy who's chancing his luck.
that. So there were a lot of black folks, a few hundred, who kind of sold their stuff and said, "Okay, let's go." So they went over there, and it was not popping. They didn't get all this land. Those tribal chiefs wouldn't let them get land. So they lost a lot of stuff, and some of them had to come back over here. So people have been running that whole.
That is an example of a scammer. That is not an example of the general population of people who move to America. That doesn't even make sense. Like, if we go check how many people who've moved to America are running like actual scams.
Oh yeah, you look up Chief Alfred Sam. I want to say he was in either Oklahoma. He went to Kentucky or Oklahoma, running his little scam. Chief Alfred Sam. Look that up. This was before Garvey. So people have been running these little scams for a minute. And, we just got to the point. We ain't trying to hear none of that. We ain't trying to hear no Wakanda stories. Y'all gonna do your thing. We ain't going for none of that.
I mean, that's fine. If someone wants to disconnect from, here's what I don't understand about the FBA thing, and I actually think about this a lot. If they want to disconnect from Africa, it seems like a very simple thing. You just never talk about Africa. You just work. Most people don't even travel outside of America. I think most African Americans never do. It seems like if your wish is to not have people travel to Africa, it's already done. Like, what's the point? Like, already your wish is granted. Most people are just not going to go to Africa ever.
Yeah. But as far as our brother Speed going over there to Africa, doing this thing, and he's doing a lot of stuff for content, and they're going to treat him with respect, of course.
Firstly, the treatment that Speed is getting is not respect. It's beyond respect. It's basically praise. It's idol worship and stuff. As people chasing you down the street, that's not respect. Like, if you expect people to act like that when you get to Africa, then, I mean, I'll be honest, you probably do deserve to get, like, if you're expecting that that is a scam. Like, you're gonna come to Africa and people are gonna start chasing you and screaming your name, and you're gonna have to pick any of 50 women that you can sleep with at any time. And if you're believing that type of Africa, then of course, like, yeah, you're gonna get what you're gonna get. But if you think that they're gonna disrespect you for coming here, that's not gonna happen, especially the countries that are very open to foreigners.
He's a celebrity. But the thing is, family, why are these people running around here focusing on all of us, thinking that we're upset about it? See, that whole foundational Black Americans are mad narrative, that's imagined, that's a fantasy. There's zero outrage. We don't really care. Nobody cares.
Well, I've already reacted to at least two foundational Black Americans who care, and they care a lot. And somehow they made it a guy going to Africa, a celebrity going to Africa, and then basically going down the street and showing, the good parts of Africa. Like, you would think that that would be, especially by black people, overwhelmingly seen as like a positive thing. But instead, it's like, no, only only white countries are allowed to pretend that their countries are 100% perfect and stuff like that, as if there's no weird stuff going on in Europe and all these other places. No one was complaining that that guy wasn't going into those areas.
We really don't care. These folks want to center themselves so badly. They imagine that we're thinking about them because all they do is sit around and think about us and talk about us.
So that's a strange sentence. It depends what he means by they and us. Like, all they do is think about us. Does he mean the tethers that he was trying to talk? I don't even know what a tether is, but does he mean that, or does he mean all Africans? And is us specifically FBA people, or is it just like successful countries? Because I will tell you that a lot of Africans do think about successful countries and how they can mimic the success that has been done in other successful countries.
And emulate us. So they want to pretend there's some type of reciprocal obsession, which it ain't. We're just not thinking about you. So they manufacture this fake narrative online, these tethers, pretending that we're sitting around upset that Speed is getting love from Africa.
Let me just hope that this video is not the whole time him saying, like, we're not mad. Believe us, we're not mad, we're not mad.
Listen, foundational Black Americans, we are not emotionally invested in Africa as a homeland the way immigrants are. So the assumption that we would be, quote, upset, that's just projecting.
So if this video continues in this direction, I'm going to have to put another one, which I saw one that I actually want to react to. It was very interesting because it gives a balanced take, and the person who is talking has actually been to Africa before. And there is a little bit of caution, which I think Tariq is trying to say about Africa, that is important to note. Like, there are some countries that Speed did not go to, and there's a reason why he didn't go to those countries.
That's a projection. And a lot of y'all are projecting diaspora anxiety. A lot of these people, let's be real, they're wrestling with identity insecurity. Y'all remember, was it the other night I had this dude, I had a couple of these tethers on here. They get on here from these foreign lands and then they're scared to say where they're really from. They're scared to get on camera. That you got the insecurity. You got an identity problem. You ain't.
Well, to be fair, a lot of people don't like to get on camera, especially in countries where they don't have like a huge celebrity culture like America. A lot of people don't want to get on camera because they don't want to represent their family in a negative way. And you're sitting there like, oh yeah, this is that, this is that, this is that. And then it's like, yo, why is your kid out here saying these crazy things? It has nothing to do with an identity crisis as much as just like protecting yourself as a human being. And by the way, I know a lot of Americans that do that too, who I've never seen their face before in my life, but they've got all kinds of opinions about all kinds of people.
In your homeland, and you have a lot of insecurity that you're trying to project onto us, and you want validation from foundational Black Americans while simultaneously resenting us out of jealousy.
Yeah, so I personally do not resent anything. And also, I don't have any jealousy for the Americans. In fact, I think America is probably one of those countries that have proven that Black people can be, they can thrive very high if they're given the platform. It's just you need to give them that platform. And I don't believe in none of that stuff of hating America. I echo words by other people who have said, um, the negative stuff that some people who travel to America say about Africa. Like they try to play games about America, Black Americans, and a diaspora means you're not going to hate on Black Americans. It doesn't mean Black Americans are the ones you can come at. And of course, there is no real separation between these groups because at the end of the day, the group that the white people, when they want to consider you a black person, they're going to group you in the same way that you chose an African accent. And I can't escape that. Like that, if someone says, if I say I'm African to someone and they start doing that accent, it's inescapable. They even do African American accents and African American stereotypes at us. It's inescapable. If you're black, you're black.
So instead of confronting your own conflicted relationship with your homeland, Africa, all that poverty and instability and the damn corruption and fleeing, you want to project your damn imagined resentment onto us so you can avoid self reflection. We just don't care. I, y'all don't know, y'all really don't understand how much we don't care.
Okay, this is looping. I'm gonna play another video.
Go back to the continent.
Girl, he is not Martin Luther King or Malcolm X. Let's calm down. I'm sorry. Hey, what's up, y'all?
So I saw a bit of this video and I was like, yeah, I have to react to this. Obviously, Ishowspeed never claimed to be Martin Luther King, but we will get there. We might have to play this one at twice the speed because it's 40 minutes long and we might not get to the end.
Today, about to react to this vid by Antonio Talks. It's titled, "This Streamer is Destroying African Propaganda." Oh, he's on my speed. I saw a couple headlines of him being in Africa. He's going to a few countries or whatever. I guess he out there putting in work if he's destroying propaganda. Let's see what he's doing. Let's watch.
Ishowspeed. If you don't know who he is a huge streamer. And I've actually criticized him on the channel before. One thing in particular that I don't like was like him feeding into the racist stereotypes and basically being a minstrel show. You know, eating fried chicken on camera, like just doing all this other weird stuff.
He did used to feed into that, but I try to give him a pass because he has matured a lot in recent years. So, he's grown.
So I agree as well. Him feeding into the propaganda or whatever, him jumping into the stereotypes was not good. But I will say it's very different because I think a lot of it was survival tactics. A lot of that was being thrown at him, and either he was going to cry or he was going to get upset with it. I think as the older he got, the better he got at dealing with it without just feeding into it, because that's what he just basically did before. It's like you don't want to lose the fans, but you don't want to come across as a different. Like if he shut it down and he started giving a speech, it would have looked a very different thing earlier. But now he kind of has learned a different way to deal with it.
So, let's give him that. He's doing a lot better, so good for him.
Now, despite of that, he's doing something right now that is very positive, and I don't think he realized how big it is. For the past year or so, he's been going around to different countries, streaming, basically doing IRL stream. And to kick the year off, Ishowspeed decided to do a Africa tour. Now, as American, when we hear Africa, we think of teepees, huts, dirt roads, things.
No, we held.
So this woman, her name is Dee Chanel. She does traveling stuff sometimes, and I think her point of view is very different than a lot of people around the world. Forget America, just a lot of people around the world. Most people around the world don't travel, and they don't even research even a little bit. If you got a map, a blank map, and you ask people to point to 10 different countries and 10 different locations, like you say, okay, here's the map of, let me do this. So here's a map of South America. If I asked you to point out Colombia on this map, would you know which one of these areas is Colombia? If I said point out Argentina, would you be able? What about Chile, Peru, Guyana? Is there any of these places that you would be able to point out very easily? Now, most of these that I mentioned are very popular. Most of you have probably heard of them. But what if I said, okay, fine, point out Ecuador? Now, that's impressive. But now tell me, what's the capital city? What is life like for the people living in that region? I think because she's traveled around Africa, she thinks that people in general know this information, and in real life, it's not true. Most people have no idea what it's like overseas.
Speak for yourself, my brother, and this really pisses me off, okay? This bullshit ass, weak ass, false narrative that, oh, Americans think this about Africa, and they think Africa's a country, and I get everybody wants to joke on Americans. You love to. That makes you feel better to be like, oh, y'all stupid, y'all think this. I promise you this is not a thing, okay? In big 2026, there are not many adults who think that Africa is a country, or that, oh, Africa is just dirt worlds and people walking around.
Well, firstly, again, as I mentioned, it's not an American thing, it's just a world thing. Like, again, if you ask me what Thailand is like, or ask me what Vietnam is like, if you ask me any of these other places around the world, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, a lot of these places, people are guessing at what they're like. So, not a lot of people got research time to go check. I mean, do people even know what that general region is called? Do people know Southeast Asia? Can they name 5 countries in the place? A lot of people just don't care. And I'll be honest, a lot of people don't care for good reason in some cases. But the little bit of information that they're given about it is negative propaganda. Just like how some people don't care about Europe at all, but they know about the Queen, they know about London, they know about Greece, ancient Greece, they know about Rome, they know about Sweden and the blondes with blue eyes over there, they know about the stereotypes are not bad.
Naked doing tribal dances all day. That's not a thing. I've never in my adult life met another adult who thinks this about Africa. Like, not once.
Again, you will be surprised. I've met Africans who think that some other African countries are more underdeveloped than they actually are. Now, of course, some countries in Africa are not as developed as they should be, but when someone asks, like, is there airplanes in Ghana? I've met a South African who said that before.
Maybe as a kid, sure, but as a grown ass adult with access to the internet, there's no way you think that. You just don't think that. And it's crazy because people will look online and use that to represent an entire country, an entire group of people. You'll see people leave comments saying, you have to keep in mind, there are a lot of bots online, there are a lot of stupid kids posting, people trolling, people rage bait. You got people on TikTok desperate for clout, so they post the most outlandish, stupid for engagement and views and likes. So you can't use that and be like, oh yeah, look, this is representative of all the American people.
So while it's absolutely true that there are people online who do give the opposite propaganda, or propaganda either way, we must remember that there was already propaganda out there, and so to have a counterweight is not a bad thing. My only problem with this rant, first of all, there's a lot of swearing that I had to bleep out, but the second thing is this idea that all the stuff on the internet is created equal. It's not true. Some of the things on some of the things that you can see on YouTube, if you want, is people just walking down the street. You can go find this South Africans, Durban, walking down the street. So the person just walking down the street for 24 hours, and they're recording everything in front of them. They're not removing anything. If there's junk, there's junk. If there's this, there's that. And this happens with Japan, all of these countries. Those used to be some of my favorite videos in the past, because it's like the second best thing to traveling somewhere.
Use this to have it represent hundreds of millions of Americans. This is how they all think, and it's like, and we're called the stupid ones. That's very unintelligent. So I don't like when people perpetuate this. It's like, no, there are no grown-ass adults. Africa is a country, right? What?
There's definitely grown people who believe that Africa is a country.
And this is just another form of propaganda. Like, I remember when I was younger, man, getting ready for school, I used to have the TV on. Every morning, it used to be Feed Africa ads.
Exactly, as a kid. But yes, he is right. Those goddamn commercials.
You would see like a skinny African little kid with a white woman, you know, saying, "Oh, give us money to feed."
And then singing "In the Eyes of an Angel." That song used to always come on. Or was that the pet one? Because they used to also have dogs and cats and rats and shit. Fido, he ain't ate in 2 months and he got like 2 legs and he like hopping and they like send us $20. Like, no. And they used to always do the same thing with African kids as well. They would have little kids showing their ribs with flies on them, be like, "Oh, you need to feed him, you know, send us some money. He ain't ate in a year," you know. So that was.
And for some people, that is their last impression of Africa. They didn't really do any more research. I mean, I definitely know. You know, it's weird. It's like you consume enough American television that you actually have. I've heard this before. The exact same song, the skinny African, which I'm assuming they're usually showing Ethiopian kids because that's where you get the majority of that type of footage, especially in South Africa when they start to show that as well, and they be like, "Appreciate your life because there's people who are suffering."
Definitely a thing. And as a kid, a stupid kid, of course you're like, "Oh my God, this is Africa." You know, but it's like as an adult, no.
You know, these are the type of things we see. On the other hand, a lot of Africans, the way they see us is, especially Black Americans, they see us as violent. They see us in movies shooting each other. So it's
So I'll be honest, the visual image of like the Black American who's violent and shooting at each other, I didn't even have that in my head until I watched American news channels, which is later, like way older. Most of the videos that come from America, Black American into Africa, which Black American is the type they try to sell to Africa because, of course, we're Black. And the majority of the stuff they sell is music videos, people partying, movies, Black American movies, Medea, all of that stuff. That's what they show at House of Pain, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, all these comedies. Comedies is a big one. The other one, it's not people shooting each other. That stuff comes from news, and majority of news that used to, until the internet, used to come to Africa was generally CNN, that type of news. And most of the time they're talking about other countries. Before all that, I wouldn't even be able to name you one gang from America. I wouldn't be able to name you one gang member from America, one who's current and who's not a white guy in a hat. You know, those 30s gangsters or mafia bosses and stuff like that. Like, that's not really something that became really popular in Africa about Black people from America.
I don't think a lot of Africans think that either. Again, we're going based on shit we see online. And if you think this way, or if you're around people who think this way, this says a lot more about you and the type of people you surround yourself with. And no shade to him, but you know, it's like if you really at your big age was thinking that about Africa, that's crazy. That says more about you.
that is not either of our own faults. But the point is,
no, it's your fault. It's your fault for being stupid. Again, no shade.
So, of course, in the 21st century, it is people's fault because you could easily educate yourself. Like I said, we're giving people way too much credit by pretending that everybody knows what place of the world. Who was it? I forgot who it was again, but there was someone who was talking about Yemen, and then someone asked them to point out Yemen on a map, and they couldn't point it. It's like there's people who talk about politics. Remember that woman as well, the Iranian woman. She didn't even know if Nigeria had a prime minister or a president. Like, she didn't even know how any of that stuff worked, but yet she's talking about Nigeria. Don't be so confident that all these people are fully aware. There's people who talk about politics all day, and then you ask them about the country they're talking about, and they can't even point it out on a map.
I like him. I've reacted to him many times over here, but boy, that is your fault if you're a big ass, grown ass adult and that's stupid. You're responsible for your own education at that point.
Breaking the African propaganda right now, and I love it. So this is one of the countries, Mozambique. I don't even know how to pronounce it. I don't want to butcher the name. But just look at it, like it looks like a very modern city, and I blame the American, school system for
Antonio, Anthony, don't piss me off. Is it Anthony speaks? Anthony, don't piss me off.
I mean, the part that they're recording looks pretty good. And again, I talk about Mozambique all the time. I don't normally talk about it in the futuristic sense, although I do talk about how it was really on the same time as everybody else in the world until really the 1800s, when the rest of the world started dropping off compared to Europe, because Europe had controlled the entire world and basically stole a lot of inventions and stagnated the world and did that on purpose.
You trying to blame the American education system, brother? You gonna have to take accountability, my brother. You gonna have to take accountability for that. That's not on the American school system. But also,
this is another one of I don't know how to pronounce the name. Mozambique. I think Mozambique, and it looks like Miami, bro. You know what I'm saying? That's the vibe it's giving me.
Okay, I don't.
So I know exactly what she's going to say, which is that this is probably the capital of the country and it's not necessarily representative of the entire country when you get there. And of course, what they're showing is drone shots, and they're not showing necessarily the actual living of the people. And which I think she's going to say this, while I think it's fair to say that, there is a little bit of a difference because, even though there is some poverty in these places, when you look at places like Mozambique and South Africa and Botswana, the poverty levels, it's not the same as some of the other African countries which are underdeveloped. And you have to separate the countries because they're not the same. They're definitely not the same. Congo is not like South Africa. Rwanda is not like other places. I mean, we're talking about difference in development.
Hot take or not, I don't care. Just as it would irritate me if people were like, oh, it's just dirt roads in Africa everywhere in the entire continent. Oh my God, this is dirty and whatever. I also get annoyed on the opposite side of the spectrum when people try to pretend that, oh, it's super modernized now, and oh my God, it looks like Miami, and oh my God, this is what all of the country looks like. This is a short drone clip, okay? We're not seeing much, so you can't take a short clip like this and let it represent all of an entire country.
So obviously she didn't watch the Ishowspeed videos because obviously he was not showing short drone clips. He was there for hours in places, and they pretty much looked, I hate to say this because I am in Africa, but they pretty much looked developed even to, American eyes for hours and hours and hours and hours, which is true. I mean, she should know this. She's definitely been in Africa, but there are definitely places that he did not go, and he didn't go on purpose, because if he went there, he would have got a completely different appearance, I guess.
Or even an entire continent and being like, oh, Africa. You can't do that. You would think this would be common sense, but people do this all the time. They'll see shit like this, like, oh, this is how Africa looks. All right, let me pull up. I'm gonna just pick any African country that's gonna look like this. That's not that's not the case. Oh, I was saying hot take because I was gonna add, the reality is most of Africa is underdeveloped. Okay, that's not propaganda. That's just a fact. Okay, if you look at the...
So this is the reason why I played this clip, because again, she's been to Africa before and she's seen it herself that, a lot of places in Africa are underdeveloped. And I don't want to do that thing that Tariq was warning about earlier, where people are saying you get to Africa, there's diamonds on the street and stuff like that. Of course, some places in Africa, as I said, you do not want to go. There's some places where you really don't want to go, where, you're going to be greeted by ISIS.
I think it's the Human Development Index or something like that. Only like, I want to say 10 to 15 maybe countries. I want to say it's less than that, because I was looking it up when I was trying to see, where in Africa I want to go next, because I'll possibly be going solo. And I want to say it's like maybe around 10 that are higher up in on the development scale. Most of them are underdeveloped, and it doesn't mean that it's all dirt roads or that it's just.
So let's first talk about the Human Development Index. Human Development Index doesn't necessarily talk about the country, especially not the one from the UN. The Human Development Index measures three main things: life expectancy, education, and living standards. And of course, some of these countries have, some of the African countries have very low life expectancy. Now, again, like I remember the person who was talking about life expectancy differences. It's not like, people in Africa die at 30 and then people in America die at 50 and then people in China die at 100. It's like the difference between the highest and the lowest. It's like 1 or 2 decades. But like in Africa, life expectancy is like 50 something, and then in America it's like 70 something, and then in China it's like 90. Okay, so it's even thinner than I thought. I just looked it up. It's 64 in Africa at the whole continent, which again, usually we consider Africa as a whole continent, but then when it comes to America, it's like the United States. The United States versus the entire Africa. So yes, America is about 10 years longer. You would think like, oh, they live such different lifestyles. They're gonna be like 20 years longer, 30 years. Nope, it's like 10 years longer. So about 75 in America life expectancy. Not you're gonna drop dead at that age. And again, you go to China, India, well, China and Japan and places like that, and you go up another 10. It's not this giant leap that you see. Which, by the way, 10 years is a long time. If you get to those ages, it starts to seem like a very long time.
Poverty everywhere, but there is a lot of poverty, and it's it doesn't look. Most of Africa does not look like this, and that's just real.
So, to get real, let's go straight to one of the biggest problems in Africa, which is slums. And one of the biggest slums, actually, the biggest slum in Africa is Kibera in Kenya. It's the biggest in the sense that it's large and densely populated. Now, something you'll realize is that Africa doesn't have large populations. For example, there's 350 million people in the United States alone. There's 1 billion people in Africa. America is, it's got a lot of people for a country compared to the continent of Africa. Some of the biggest countries in Africa have about 50 million people maximum. And then, of course, you got places like Nigeria, they've got more. And though that's where you get a lot of the problems because they've got such a large population. Now, this is Kibera, and these are the slums of Kibera. And what you will notice is that just on the outskirts, there are buildings, slow development that is happening. Now, Kibera, as I said, is one of the biggest slums. So in Kenya, let's do some mathematics real quick. In Kenya, there's about 2 million people living in informal settlements or slums, but there's 57 million people in the country of Kenya. So where are the rest living? So 2 million poor people who live in slums like that, to that level. The rest live in normal parts of the city, like normal city places, rural areas, which are a combination of sort of towns and rural areas. What's the other one? Suburbs, right? Maybe not, suburb is maybe not the best term. Well, obviously some people live in the suburbs, but others live in just towns. So while Africa does have a high poverty rate, depending on which place you talk about, but if you talk about places like Kenya, Mozambique, South Africa, you will have a concentration. But at the same time, the majority of the people are living above that standard. Like they're not living in abject poverty where you're literally can't even afford to rent a house or rent a room or anything. You're just out.
Okay, so I also think that isn't, a good idea to adopt that mentality either on the opposite side of the spectrum. Don't think it's just all dirt roads and dirty and poverty everywhere, but don't think that, oh, this is how most of it looks, because it's not based on stats, GDP, okay? Information you can look up yourself.
So we've done this before. GDP doesn't necessarily tell you everything you need to know about a country. Like I said, Africa makes some of the same amount of money that some European countries make, but it doesn't come down to, I mean, the countries that make the most amount of money are the ones that held a lot of empires, but it doesn't really come down to GDP as much as it comes down to the difference between the richest and the poorest, the division of money in that sense. Because look here, okay, so Sweden, 610 billion USD 2024, Finland 299 billion, Switzerland 936 billion, almost a trillion. South Africa is right there, right? But people wouldn't say that the poverty level of South Africa is exactly the same as that of Sweden or Switzerland. And of course, there's countries with less GDP than South Africa that have got less poor people than South Africa, because GDP doesn't tell you everything. Again, the other one doesn't tell you everything either, because some countries like America and those, they're very money oriented and capitalism and that. So we'll get back to it. You know what? I think we need this. Let's just do it. So this is a map. The darker the blue, the higher the GDP of the country. So let's look. So Brazil, which has a lot of slums, has a very high GDP. But you can see that it's dark blue, but it doesn't change the fact that they've got a lot of poor people. Obviously, America dark blue, Mexico dark blue, Canada dark blue, Alaska dark blue, Russia dark blue, China dark blue, India dark blue, Australia, parts of Indonesia is dark blue, the British Isles dark blue, Spain, Italy. But then you'll start to notice that places like the Middle East, Africa, well, South Africa, Nigeria, Sweden, parts of Europe, they have this middle blue color. All of these countries here, they have the middle blue color. And then after that, you see this light blue, which resembles a very low poverty, below South Africa. Places like Kazakhstan, which I just realized right now, you guys probably don't know which parts of the country I'm pointing at. So if you look at Russia and you just look down, look at the country of Russia. That's the biggest one in Asia, the biggest block. If you look down, you can see there, that's Kazakhstan, that little blue area, light blue area. By the way, this is what I mean when I say, some people, if I just give him this map and I say point to the countries, you're going to have a hard time figuring out which one is which. Let me ask you a question. Where's Greenland? Try to point to it on there. If you said it's that big light blob over there, you see how it's even lighter than some African countries, which again has to do with the population that exists on there, then you're right.
Actual data and statistics, it is very underdeveloped. Does not take away from it though. I love Africa. I've been 4-5 times at this point. Even Ghana, I went twice. Okay, so even though this second time in Ghana, anyway, I'll talk about this on my second page. Did you know TV? Anyway, but the first time I went to Ghana, I loved it. All right, I was in Kenya, loved it. Tanzania had some of the most beautiful water I've ever seen in my life. All right, so there.
So obviously, as someone who's gone there, I respect her opinion way more than I respect a lot of people who've never gone there, but they've got all these opinions who they'll talk about the poverty or the wealth of the place, and they've never really been there ever before. Now, I'm not saying you have to be there, but sometimes people just start using stats and it starts looking, like I said, I just showed you a few of them that won't paint the perfect picture.
Are definitely beautiful areas for sure, and there are great aspects in different countries in Africa, but I also don't think it is cool to spread the narrative as well, to be like, oh look, this is how it looks like Miami. No, it doesn't.
Beautiful, because everybody's showing love, man.
And this is not on speed, by the way. He just out there living his best life and showing it, documenting it in his little streaming or whatever. But I'm saying how people are interpreting this. I feel like that's the problematic part.
I mean, it's partially on everybody, but I mean, I remember when, and again, I don't watch Speed's content, but I've seen the clips when he was in China and stuff, and how, China looked way better than it's ever looked on Speed's channel. I mean, some of the images he showed, they just look like they were in the future. But that's just what happens. He's going to go to the places that look pretty good. The problem here is that they don't even show the places that look pretty good.
That's one thing I love about Speed when he do these. Like, he really goes into the culture.
Yeah, having a great time.
It's all love too, bruh. Hey.
So obviously, there's other people who've been in these areas and taken place in the culture. They've taken to the culture and stuff like that. Obviously, Speed is one of the biggest, well, probably the biggest person who's ever gone there. So a lot of people are taking notice. I wouldn't even say it's the biggest streamer to come to Africa because, Mr. Beast has come to Africa before. He's pretty huge. I would say that because he's part of what I would call gossip celebrity culture, like the type of celebrity culture where people will talk about them even if they don't watch them. I think that's why it's getting as much attention as it's getting. Because it's not like his views are like 100 million. That's like average Mr. Beast views.
Yeah, they gon' beat him probably in every athletic thing he does.
We the athletes of the world. Stop playing.
Yeah. But the vibes is immaculate, man.
It is pretty interesting because, if you've read some of the colonial things that they used to say about Africa because of their athletic abilities, they used to be like, these guys are more like a circus crew or something. Like the fact that they could do like these random movements and blah, blah, blah. And that's just part of the culture. And so, it's very interesting.
What the hell? What's up with... This is his shit, not my shit. Maybe this part got copyrighted. Oh my God. They got this man's face painted. He is famous. Wow. If you're unaware, this is from a really viral, he's stupid, a really viral clip of him like trying not to laugh when he was on stream playing this game.
Okay, so I don't know if we have to watch even more, but there's about 30 minutes left of this video. So we're going to have to go fast through things. We can't be watching these small parts.
And they haven't painted.
One of him dancing.
Okay.
I think this is when he was in Angola. He's been to 3 countries now.
It's barking. He's still doing.
Hey. Now these are just a few clips, man. You gotta watch the full stream. The vibes are just absolutely immaculate. Now the thing that's really been getting me, man, is just...
Am I missing something? How is he destroying propaganda? I'm thinking he like out there interviewing people or something.
Well, I mean, he didn't interview people, but he did talk to Miss World Africa, Miss Ethiopia. He did talk to the sons of the king of Eswatini and the daughter as well. To see them sitting there memeing is kind of strange. But obviously, if you want to see the full thing, just go watch the full video.
Like, what is it? Well, I mean, mean, he said it at the beginning. Is it because you thought that it was just dirt roads there? And because he's showing that it's not just dirt roads? But I feel like anybody with a phone could just look up a travel vlog or some shit. I've shown when I was in Africa. Like, it's not hard to look that up and see, even if you've never physically been.
So again, let's talk about things that are easy and things that are hard. So today, it's not hard today to look up how phones are made. Phones can be made by just about anybody, right? Like kids in China leave rural areas and they get trained to build phones. 21st century phones. Some of these guys haven't even finished high school and they get trained to fix phones like that. Something that you can train yourself if you go on the internet and check, and then you can just buy the pieces and assemble and make your own cell phone. But people aren't going to do that. In the same way, most people aren't going to sit there and even think to Google what Africa looks like. There's a game called GeoGuessr, which people used to play on Twitch. And then whenever they'd see an African place and they'd guess it and it's got cities and stuff, they would always be like, whoa, wait a minute, really? So let's stop giving people too much credit about what they know and what they don't know. And like I said, there's plenty of information on how to buy stocks. There's plenty of information on how to do this, how to do that online, but people don't go look at it. Believe it or not, people aren't that curious to go check. You can go right now online and figure out how to make your own clothes. Top tier, look like the one that came out of a factory. But people aren't going to do that.
But let's just say countries in Africa, there are clean areas and there are, areas with more poverty, just like America. I feel like that's very intellectually dishonest because it's not the same. First off, the poverty in America versus poverty in Africa is not the same. It's not the same. And trust me, when I was in Kenya and Ghana specifically, I drove a lot around those areas. Not me personally, but I had a driver when I was in Ghana. Well, both times I went to Ghana. And in Kenya, when I went with my boyfriend and his homie, like, they was driving a lot. So I seen a lot of those two countries. And driving around, most of it is underdeveloped. Most of it does not look very modern. Most of it is not this, And once again, this is not anywhere in Africa, but you need to be aware of what you're getting into and don't look at short clips and use that to represent an entire or continent. That's just not smart. And I feel like people tend to do that. And just hearing how they're kind of narrating this, I'm just like, oh my God.
So I'm going to have to do a part 2 of this video in order to get the full story. But we are still going to continue for a little while because I think there's some important information that is in this video. So let's look at the Human Development Index that she gave us earlier. So not surprising, South Africa is on there, Egypt is on there, Algeria is on there, Tunisia is on there, Mauritius, Libya, Morocco, Botswana, Gabon. A lot of these that are on the high side he went to. Obviously, I didn't see him go to Mauritius or Seychelles, which are, globally rank very high for a couple of reasons. One, because of their very low population, but also that means they have a low poverty rate and a high living standard. Whereas some countries with a lot of people in Africa, like Nigeria, rank very low, even though they got more money than a lot of African countries. South Africa ranks very high because for its population, it's got a lot of money. In fact, it's probably important I just read these. So Seychelles consistently ranks highest in Africa and globally among the very high human development categories. Mauritius, also in a very high category, known for strong human capital and governance. Algeria, a leader in North Africa, categorized as high development. Tunisia, another North African strong competitor in high development. Egypt ranks high in overall development in North Africa, even though it's number 5. South Africa, a top contender, often in high development, noted for significant progress despite inequalities. Libya, despite political challenges, maintains a high HDI score Morocco, a leading North African nation with medium to high development. Botswana, a standout in Southern Africa for its development. Now, Botswana is a little different than South Africa because it doesn't have, even though it doesn't have as much money as South Africa, it doesn't have as much inequality as South Africa and crime. Gabon among the top in Central Africa, showing progress in development.
Once again, this irritation goes back to, me being misled when I first started traveling. But now, listen, I've been to well over 50 countries at this point, so I'm like, all right. I know not to just take that I see online as it relates to travel, but there are a lot of people who don't know that, who haven't started traveling yet, and they and they're like, oh, this is how it must be. But you have to use your common sense and don't look at clips like this and be like, okay, this is how the entire continent is.
Downtown Houston, like, I know they got self-driving cars in this bitch. Come on, look how futuristic this shit. Look at y'all, man. Thinking Africans still got water and shit. Nigga, they poor and shit. Like, come on, man. Like, this stream opened my eyes to a lot of shit.
That's what a lot of people don't realize, man.
Car on the street, bro. Look at that, bro. This shit look like a futuristic LES. Futuristic downtown Brooklyn. Like, what the fuck? Like, look at the streets.
So we have to say a couple of things. So the part that he's showing is South Africa, which is one of the most developed places in Africa. So obviously it looks like that. And it's not like a small place of South Africa, like a large part of South Africa looks like that. Now, of course, there's some places which you could call undeveloped, but a lot of them is like, again, rural land, which is not populated at all. Like, we're talking about very small amount of people living in the rural areas and all this other. But this is another conversation for another day.
So I'm kind of confused. Like, Ishowspeed's in Africa, and like, how? Like, they have Wi-Fi.
He's British.
I never knew that. And like, they have cars, houses, like.
He gotta be rage baiting.
He's obviously trolling, but not all trolls are created from complete fiction. There are some people who didn't know that there were cars in Africa, at least not that type. Not the type where you see just normal modern cars that you can find just about everywhere. And I've talked about before, but like the price dumps that happen where like in Africa they sell cars cheaper than they would if you're really smart. Buy an American car from one of these countries that they like lessen the price for, because in America, for the same pieces, and China exposed this, they will sell you guys things that they sell to other countries for cheap for the most amount of money. And that's how really they make a lot of their money.
Why I really don't trust this and I think he on some, because if he lives anywhere close to London, he's full of a lot of Africans in London, a lot. And I just don't believe that he truly thinks that Africa had no cars.
I mean, you can tell that's just one of Speed's fans who are probably, he's very young and all this other stuff. You can tell that he is just trolling, obviously.
I think he's trolling. I really do. And this is the problem when you consume online. It's a lot of brain rot. It's a lot of stupid people who get on here, show their goofy ass face, and say dumb shit. I don't believe that most people around the world think this. He could just be that stupid. It's a very,
as you said, he's probably from London. He probably knows the reality, and he knows there's cars and planes and all these other stuff in Africa. But he's just trolling. His face is trolling.
a real possibility, but I don't believe him.
Never knew that.
It's funny, bro. I can't be mad at him. If you ain't know they had cars though, that's you're a dumbass. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sorry.
Jesus Christ. Every single one of these people just swears every 10 seconds. It's so annoying. And it wouldn't be if it wasn't on YouTube, where they literally will demonetize you for swear words. But these guys, every 10 seconds, it's something. How are they monetized?
And this is why I hate diaspora wars so much, man, because in the grand scheme of things, Africans, they love us, and us Black Americans, we love y'all too.
Y'all probably wondering why I'm crying.
So this is the part that we were at in the beginning of the video. I'm gonna end the video after this one. So yeah, let's see what she has to say. By the way, I think she's trolling. I was gonna react to this video, but then I watched a couple of people crying, and I was like, "This is a meme. This is a meme. This is not some real stuff. A lot of this is just a lot of people looking for attention." Do I think there are some people who changed their mind and got moved and stuff like that? Yes. I mean, I saw some content creators who would never consider coming to Africa, and now they're like, yeah, I gotta go. But the whole like super crying stuff, I think a lot of that is trolling.
I've been watching Speed streams, and I'm seeing all the love that he's getting
Hell yeah.
in Angola.
I know you lying. Don't
He's in
piss me
South
off.
Africa, and he's getting massive amount of love, and the way that he was treated in Europe was disgusting.
Yeah, we gonna talk about that.
But
We
to
gonna talk
see
about
him
that.
be a black man from the United States of African descent and be able to go back to the continent and be
Girl, he is not Martin Luther King or Malcolm X. Let's calm down. I'm sorry.
I mean, to be fair, at no point did she say that she was Martin Luther King or he was Martin Luther King. And I think looking at it that way is a little weird. You know, it's like, yeah, it's exaggeration. It's almost like attacking a straw man, but obviously it's not debate, so let's not go there.
I ain't trying to be insensitive, but the girl, don't piss me off. Girl, because he pulled up and he having a good time with people out there. It's like, oh my God, he doing something so groundbreaking, and this is what our people thought for you to go over there and travel. She is teary-eyed because he's treated well. He's a celebrity, girl, sister girl. He's very famous. You saw they painted a whole ass wall to celebrate him. They probably already. For a second, I was thinking, did they paint that knowing that he about to pull up? But I doubt it. Speed is like international. Like he's very, very famous.
So yes, he is very, very famous around the world, and he's getting even more famous for going around the world, which, I think Kai Cenat did that before, and that also gave him a sort of international fame. That always happens to people. Once they get popular in America, there's a small amount of people that will be talking about you, but once you start going around the world, then people around the world will know exactly who you are. I mean, I hate to say it, but there's some people who you probably don't like who would get the same reaction because they're huge in America and then huge everywhere else as well. Actually, depends as well, because some of them are from England. I think depending on how he did it, if KSI did the same thing, it'd probably get a very similar reaction.
So I think they just fuck with him there. So that's why he's getting so much love, girl. Because he's famous. Is she serious?
treated like a human.
Like a human? How else is he supposed to... Is she rage baiting too? What is happening? What?
Continent and be treated like a human.
So I'm not a big fan of saying that people are trolling, but she does look like she's trolling to me. But whatever. Maybe she's dead serious. I don't know.
Civilized African people.
Oh my God, civilized okay, she's pissing me off. By civilized African people. So are you saying that you didn't think that they were civilized? And you thought that black people could go over there and they wouldn't be treated as human? What are we talking about? Am I tripping? Am I just being too insensitive? What?
Well, I would say probably you're well-traveled and worldly and other people are not. And that's just it. You might think everybody knows what you know, but they don't know what you don't know. And you say you haven't run into people who don't know that, but how many people have you run into who are not like you? If you travel a lot, you probably hang around people who travel a lot, and they probably know a lot of things about a lot of things. And even those who don't travel, probably they have the similar mentality where they want to travel.
No, I'm not. This is ridiculous.
We've been taught that Africa is primitive, that it's dangerous, don't go back.
I mean, there are many dangerous countries, okay, in Africa. That's not untrue.
So, of course, I mentioned this earlier. There's some places which have higher crime than others, but you saw when he went to South Africa, he had no problems. When he went to all these other places, South Africa, by the way, has a high crime rate, but they found no problems and no problems in all these other places. You can select where you want to go. In the same way that if I went to America, there's probably some places people would go, yeah, don't live in that area specifically. Now, obviously, there's a difference.
Obviously, not every single country, but there are a lot that are dangerous. That's not that's not false information. This is what I'm talking about. It's okay to appreciate the beauty of different countries, and I know as Black people we really want to support and have this love for the motherland, Africa, okay? But I don't think that it's a good idea to be super delusional either and crying because you saw a Black man travel there.
Something interesting that she said was that when she went to Africa at first, she realized that a lot of the things that she was being told on the internet are not real. A lot of people are still in that early stage where you're at, where they don't understand. And so, even though I think she's trolling, I think there is a little bit of earth shattering madness when you realize like the stuff that you were told isn't exactly what it is. I mean, if you know, some of the movies that we used to see of Brazil when we were younger, we're like, whoa, what the hell? And then you realize it's just another city, just another country.
Like, girl, it is not that serious. You're doing a lot. Yeah, you can pull up too. Like, he didn't do anything groundbreaking, girl. He didn't lead anybody through the Underground Railroad. Like, what are we doing? What are we talking about? So I feel like she's doing a lot, and I don't know. It's feeling like very performative. I don't trust it. But you know, I also think that it is dangerous to have the mindset that, oh, look, Speed went there and look, it looks like Miami, so it's safe. Let me just pull up. I'm about to just pull up. I'm about to go to any country, and yeah, it's just they gonna welcome me with love like they did Speed.
Of course, that would not be smart to assume that, but that's not got nothing to do with Africa. That's like if you go see him in China and how they reacted, and you think when you go to China you're gonna be treated like that, then that's on you, to be honest.
No, there are some African countries that are even on the, do not travel list where our country recommends, hey, you might not want to go there. Like that is a real thing. But obviously it's not every country there, but let's not act like, oh, they lied to us by telling us that, there are dangerous places there, because it is dangerous. Like really dangerous, more than America dangerous in some of those countries.
Well, like I said again, the more than America dangerous part. I actually remember there was a South African celebrity that went on the Breakfast Club, and he actually mentioned that one of the things that we used to see in like rap videos and stuff about people dying, he thought it was like just some movie stuff, which is true. I mean, a lot of people are from around the world, Africa and stuff. In the beginning, we didn't know how much violence there was in America, gun violence there was in America, until much later. When you start seeing the news coming from America, it's like someone once described it as like YouTube as anti-brochure for America, because suddenly you're seeing like the stuff that they don't show here. Here, when they sell, the reason why people outside of America love America is because the way they sell it, it's like it's the best place ever. There's no, well, I mean, there's no crime, there's none of that. But then obviously when you get in there and all of a sudden it's like the highest prison population, all of that, then it's like, whoa, that's not how they sold it.
They have this, they have that.
Africa is not monolith. Like, you can't, girl.
They don't want you, they don't like you.
That's all I hear, bro. Even people in my comments, they be like, bro, why you be taking up for Africans so much? They don't like you. I'm like,
okay, you gonna waste your comments. Why you listening to your comments? Why you even reading your comments? First off, in the comment section, so I would not take that seriously. But who told her that? I'm very confused. When people
The world told everyone about that. They didn't talk about the capital cities and African states. They didn't talk about the fact that most of the poverty you see in Africa is due to inequality, not just a lack of money. They didn't talk about any of that part.
saying like, oh, they always told us this. Who is they and what are y'all talking about? When we're talking about us being kids and seeing the African commercials for the starving children, sure, that was heavy propaganda. But again, big 2026, what are y'all talking about? Or even let's say a few years ago, even 10 years ago, who was telling y'all this?
Media, the news, YouTubers, news, I can't really say paper, but newspapers online. If you keep reading, you'll see stuff like these people napped from this one region, beaten in this region, cars stolen in this region, set on fire in this region. That's what makes people scared, which again is true. But again, if you keep watching the news versus other countries which only advertise their achievements, you're going to get two completely different stories.
That, oh, everybody there hates you, you go there, they're not going to treat you like a human, the Africans are not civilized. Like, what are y'all?
Bruh, y'all gotta stop being on the internet so much, you know?
Nigga, you too. Both of y'all need to stop being on the internet so much because I am very confused.
I hate this thing where people pretend that the internet itself is a problem. It's what part of the internet are you on? If you're watching SpongeBob all day, that's different than, or if you're watching Ishowspeed all day, that's very different than reading online.
I'm confusion.
I'm saying, even in the sense of being on the internet, like a lot of the love I get is from African people, like my people, I'm descended to them. They send me messages all the time, man. Much love, we love y'all. Like, don't fall for that shit. Like, I get that all the time.
And to see an African American man with his stature go back to the motherland and be treated with so much respect.
Girl, he's rich, girl.
I love it. This is clearly bait, and she's falling for it beautifully. Yeah. Probably the rich part is less important as much as the fame part. Because there's a lot of rich people who show up to South Africa and nobody cares. Maybe like some GD gold diggers. I didn't want to say it out loud, but I don't want that to sound like something else.
You not understand it? Do you think you gonna go over there and they gonna treat you the exact same way? Because they not. And this is not because they have a problem with you or an issue with you, but hello, we got to use our common sense. Like, they are rolling the red carpet out for him because he is a big celebrity. They know he rich, he's important, and he's streaming the entire thing to the entire world. He got a huge following, so he's gonna be treated a certain way. That's something that people need to keep in mind as well when they're consuming travel content. Even when people consume my travel content on a way lesser scale, okay? But
so obviously it is true that a lot of people who consume travel content, a lot of them actually don't go travel to the places that they see, even if they're very brilliant and stuff. And so they might repeat the information that they see as if it's real information, and that is something that people should be careful of because it might not be necessarily true.
when I'm going to certain countries, I am aware that I have the money to stay in certain areas. I have the money to be able to, and it affords me the privilege of being treated a certain way. Especially when I'm like going to nicer establishments, restaurants and stuff. They, hear my accent. They're like, oh, you're American. And if you hear you got money, okay, I'm going to be treated a certain type of way.
So all of this is true, but this video is getting real long now.
Based on that. So you can't just look at my vlogs, for example, and be like, oh, I'm gonna go there and have that same experience. That's not how things work. So she's doing the same thing with Speed. Like, oh my God, I'm so happy, I'm proud. They treat him so well. Cause he's famous, girl. But why would that make you cry? Oh my God, I can't. Please,
This
girl,
is what our people fought for.
Oh my God. Girl. This man did nothing.
Whoa, she's like flailing around the room and stuff. First, hear her out. I mean, maybe she's got a point about, this is what people fought for a little bit.
And this is no shade at all. I love that he's going and traveling and showing people at least glimpses of, these certain areas that they may never get to travel to. So there's nothing wrong with that. And I watch travel vlogs myself. So I don't think that that's an issue. But why are we acting like this man is like freeing the slaves? Like, y'all acting like he really doing something super groundbreaking. Somebody he destroying propaganda.
Okay, but you can't simultaneously say that he's this large international celebrity and then say he's not doing much at the same time. I mean, clearly he is doing something.
And now you crying, talking about this is what our ancestors fought for. What? You know what, girl.
Fought against Jim Crow and segregation. This is what the slave revolts were about.
And okay, she's not completely inaccurate in that. Because, yes, like, we are able to live a certain life because of what our ancestors fought for. But my thing is, Speed is not the first Black American to go to Africa.
But nobody said he was the first Black person to ever go to Africa.